Father's Day weekend with all of these men. It's good. How many fathers have we got here tonight? Look at all of them. Kids are great until they become teenagers. I'm teasing. I've got 5 children. I just married off my oldest last weekend, so I'm trying to get over that still. And then I've got a couple of teenage boys, a couple of teenage daughters still at the house, so I'm in bad need of prayer. When I was a boy growing up in Del City, Oklahoma, I never imagined that I would be traveling the country talking about a major event in history. I certainly never thought I'd be a featured speaker at events across the country. I'm humbled by it. I'm mindful of Proverbs 21:21, where it says, "He that follows after righteousness and mercy finds life and honor." And I know that I'm a blessed man. While major events may have been unpredictable in my life, many that knew me as a child would not be surprised that I became a soldier. As a child, no flower bed or lawn was safe from a vast invasion of toy soldiers or G.I. Joes. I maneuvered through the fields and woods and creeks, enlisting neighborhood friends fighting mock battles. The grown-ups in my neighborhood, most of them were World War II veterans. And they fascinated me with tales of what it was like to fight in a tank in North Africa, or what it was like to assault Japanese-held Pacific islands, or what it was like to grow up in Nazi-occupied France. And while their experiences varied, they all shared a common love of the United States of America, born of trials and sacrifice. Unknown to me then, God was preparing my own heart and shaping my own future service through the adults in my neighborhood. And I can relate to the psalmist David when he said, "He teaches my hands to make war, that a bow can be broken by my arms." My fascination with the military was not the only desire of my heart in my youth. My parents raised me to always be truthful, try to be. And 5 generations of living family gave me a sense that people matter. I knew 6 of my great-grandparents. World War I veterans, a couple of them. There was that generational tie that we felt in our family. And they taught me that we should respect authority, respect our elders. And while I was raised to believe in God, I did not discover a personal relationship with Him until my teenage years. My grandmother, Vesta Russell, because where I come from, people are named Vesta, have husbands named Eldon, have sons named Clyde, which is my dad. They felt that I should go to church and arrange for me. She felt that I should go to church. She never learned to drive, so she really couldn't go. My grandfather never went. But she arranged with one of her neighbors for me to go. At the age of 12, for the first time, in a small Baptist church in Oklahoma, I heard the news about how Jesus Christ had died to pay for my sins. I was deeply moved by it all. I wasn't a Christian, but it was the first time I'd ever heard the story. What is it about? After about 6 months, though, I decided to hear what other churches had to say. Over the next year or so, I probably tried them all. Even strayed into some that I probably shouldn't have, that really couldn't be called churches at all. My mother was concerned about that, and she convinced me to stop going to this one organization that was probably more classified as a cult. And I did one better. I just quit going to church altogether. I reasoned in my 13-year-old brain that they all couldn't be right. That how could one be more so than any other? So my pursuit of God stopped at the ripe old age of 13. But God's pursuit of me never did. One particular day, while playing in the woods, I suffered the inevitable consequences of using poison ivy as a part of my personal camouflage. I missed several days of school, laying on my back, swollen like the Michelin tire man, looking very red. And I was extremely bored. I loved to read, couldn't find anything. The only thing within reach was the one Bible home. It was on the headboard of my bed for who knows what reason. Wedding gift to my parents in 1955. So I unzipped it, blew the dust off of it, began to read, started in Matthew. Once I got through the begats, I got to the Sermon on the Mount. And I was struck by the words of Christ, where he instructed people in how they should live. And as tears formed in my eyes, I told God, I said, God, that's what I'm looking for. Surely there's a way a person could find this type of life. Still didn't make me a Christian, but I did become fascinated that the Bible had some really interesting things in it if I took time to read it. Well, thank God for the Gideons. Once back at school in those days, you could grab one New Testament right out of a rack in the hallway, and I did. And I began to read it cover to cover. Longest time, I thought Psalms and Proverbs were part of the New Testament because they were included in the Gideon's New Testament. And I learned several things while I went on this journey just reading the Bible. I learned that I was born a sinner. That explained why when I did things wrong, I'd feel a little guilty about it. God gave me that conscience. And it explained also that if I died, my sins would keep me forever away from God. Because he is a holy God and he has perfection. But it also told me that if I confessed with my mouth and believed in my heart that God raised him from the dead after dying on the cross to pay for my sins, that guess what? That I could have a relationship with God and he would forgive me of all of my sins, no matter what I did. And Ephesians and Philippians also showed me that even if I believed in Christ, that I would still struggle with sin after becoming a Christian. But to take courage. Because the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead would give me strength to conquer my shortcomings. And I could forget the past and look to the future. I fell in love with the book of Proverbs because it gave me little bite-sized things to think on every day.